Man, it got super cold super fast here in Ontario, Canada. Hey forum, my name is Manny, aka CascadeScents, and if you're at all interested in perfumes, colognes, fragrances in general, well, this might be the channel for you. I'm not a fragrance expert, more like a fragrance enthusiast, and if you're interested in discussing fragrances, again, I think you'll like this one as well. Especially if it's already cold where you're at as well. This is for my winter designer fragrances, of course. But as always, a friendly reminder before we get on with everything, 500 likes and a random one of you subscribers in the comment section below will be the lucky recipient of an assorted niche fragrance sample pack. So again, if you'd like to be eligible to win some really expensive samples of really expensive fragrances, please be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. That being said, we do have a lot to get through here, so we might as well get on with my first winter fragrance, designer-wise, of this year. No surprise here, this one is called Dior Homme Parfum by Christian Dior. Now, I always spam this fragrance, but for good reason. I love iris and I don't love leather, but they make this an iris leather bomb that actually projects and something that I can actually tolerate at the same time. Like, don't get me wrong, the leather is still brazen here, but in a rather chic way because of how enhanced it is from that iris. Like, if I'm going out, or specifically going out shopping in the wintertime, I love wearing this stuff right here. So with that being said, it's definitely not for the faint of heart, especially if you're already iffy on wearing some of the initial Dior Homme DNA offerings. So if you don't like your fragrances to scream and or you're not really into anything remotely metrosexual, don't look for this one. Otherwise, please do so because you know I think it's awesome. We're talking about that European exclusive Dior Homme Parfum by Christian Dior. Moving on, we have my token musk scent for this designer list. This one is called Narciso Rodriguez for Him by Narciso Rodriguez. Now this stuff is green, vegetal, and kind of cement-like, but ultimately it's more of a wet, musky type of fragrance. Also, to continue on with that really awesome performance kind of theme, I'm also getting it right here in Narciso Rodriguez for Him. So personally, I think it's rather perfect for a cold, rainy day, and or if it just rained, and or if the snow is melting, but still chilly as hell out and you want something to help enhance that melancholy mood. This is probably what I would reach for, especially if you don't like your musks leaning too animalic. Again, this has more of a synthetic vegetal kind of approach. So if you like stuff like Silver Mountain Water by Creed, for example, and or Off-White X by Ritos, Elevator Music, this is probably something I would look at, especially if you're looking to save more than a few bucks. Don't get me wrong though, it's still a designer level fragrance, but you still get a lot of value here because of that performance. So that's why I do think it's worthy for picking up and or at least trying. Again, it's Narciso Rodriguez for Him by Narciso Rodriguez. Moving on to my next winter fragrance now, here's Amber Pour Homme Intense by Prada. And this really is a more intense version of the initial Amber Pour Homme. Like, you have that bergamot opening which really pops in your nose. It somehow flows into the myrrh really well too and kind of gives an airier take on it, but again, one that's still popping off my skin even a couple hours into my wear. But as it begins to dry down, it's way more vanilla driven and patchouli. Like, I get a lot of patch out of this scent, and for the most part that's what I get towards the very end of it. So overall, very airy, balsamic, and earthy, but in a cleanish way because of course we're talking about Amber Pour Homme DNA right here. Again, just a more intense one and slightly changed. So if you're looking for a cold weather work scent, look no further. It just might be wise for you to ease up on the spray count here, unless you need this stuff to cut through a blizzard here in Canada like myself. So again, for what that's worth, this is Amber Pour Homme Intense by Prada. Now moving on, we're going to add a little bit more of that granny manny action for you. Sometimes I just need that more mature, intoxicating style. Last season, of course, was Black Orchid by Tom Ford. This season is going to be another orchid. It's called ORCHIDÉE Vanille by Van Cleef and Arpels. And this fragrance, super lovely, of course, a part of the Collection Extraordinaire. And no, before you ask, this is not a Black Orchid clone, but they do have one in the very same collection called Precious Oud, which is a little bit more tuberose and patchouli driven rather than the orchid style of the initial Black Orchid, of course. So as a result, Van Cleef and Arpels left the orchid as a different note to another fragrance in this right here in ORCHIDÉE Vanille. And here I predominantly get two kind of stages. One, the opening stage, where it's kind of equal parts floral and or vanilla and creamy. Sure, you get some fruits in the opening as well, but again, it's mainly that orchid floral, which is kind of wild smelling. Like, it's not the kind of floral that you'd want to pick and just give to someone. It's kind of one that you just smell in the wild. And as a result, you have this picturesque image in your mind as you do smell this. And as far as the second stage of the scent, which is even like maybe a half hour in, it just starts to get creamier and creamier and creamier. You know, with notes like dark chocolate and almond, which is just gonna go extra creamy. So when you combine that with the richness of vanilla, you just can't go wrong if this is the direction you want to go. However, I've been seeing a lot of comments online how people say that this does not project the way they want it to. I mean, again, if you are looking for a Black Orchid approach, definitely look at that Precious Oud from the same line if that's what you're into. This is more of a subtle for you and your loved ones kind of scent. That being said, it doesn't struggle in the longevity department, which I think is really important too. At least for me, just because I'm one of those types to like their fragrances to last a long time, but not to project too much. So if that's also you and you want to try a new floral take on vanilla, definitely give this a shot. Again, it's ORCHIDÉE Vanille by Van Cleef and Arpels. And last but not least, we got one of my night owl favorites here to close out the list. This one's called SPICEBOMB Extreme by Viktor and Rolf. And sometimes when I smell this one right here for them, I can't help but feel like I wish that this was the original, just because I feel like the original is more intense or more extreme than this one being less, of course. And I actually really like this one. I think I like it more than the initial version. I just don't like the fact that it's called extreme. But what do I like about it specifically? Well, I also do like what makes it not as extreme. A less intense opening that's also more focused on sweets rather than just spices. So it's not just cinnamon, it's not just pepper. I'm already getting hints of vanilla in the opening as well, which I really love. So it really feels like a little bit more linear as a result, because it's just gonna get creamier and more vanillic towards the end. But I'm okay with more of that straightforward, less aggressive take on SpiceBomb, especially when I'm kind of sensitive to spice to begin with. So that's why I'm a big fan of this. And kind of like other vanilla fragrances, kind of like I mentioned on this list already in ORCHIDÉE Vanille, they do last a long time off of me, but they're not gonna project off of me that much either. So this is one that I like to spray on at 5 or 6 if I'm going for dinner and then we're going to the club after or something like that. I'll still feel like I'll get wafts of it come that time in the night. Again, I think it's really nice for an easygoing night out. It's SpiceBomb Extreme by Viktor and Rolf. And there it is for them. Hopefully you enjoyed my designer winter fragrances for this year. It's that time of the video now where I'd love for you to tell me what you're rocking this winter in the comment section below. As always, 500 likes and a random one of you subscribers will be the lucky recipient of an assorted niche fragrance sample pack. So again, be sure to also like and subscribe if you want to be eligible. But that about does it for me, so thank you for the ongoing support as always. Take care for now, peace out, bye. Wear your fragrances.